Hi, my name is Bina Maseno. I am a passionate advocate for gender equality. I am currently the Executive Director for Badili Africa. Badili Africa cultivates the leadership and political engagement of everyday Chama women, the grassroots women who organize in Chamas. We also cultivate the leadership and political engagement of young women in universities and urban informal settlement. And we're very keen to end sexual and gender-based violence as a very key deterrent to women and girls participating actively in leadership spaces. I was born and bred in Kayole. I schooled in Kayole in Mombasa Primary School, and growing up in Kayole, access to basic needs was a very, very huge challenge. Access to clean water, good sanitation, electricity, good education was very, very hard to come by. And I remember at night we were often at the mercy of terror gangs. And sadly, I lost 4 friends that I grew up with. We schooled together in Mombasa Primary. And all this that I saw while growing up fueled my passion for community development and led to me joining the political field at the age of 22. But also, even as I reflect on my life growing up, even just accessing, university education, college, just that alone, it took a whole village, a whole community to fundraise for me, but also just, different well-wishers to support my education. I remember for me to actually join college, I would actually walk in town and knock doors. There was this lady called Mama Iva. She was my mom's friend. And when I finished Form 4, I passed very well. I had an A, but I wasn't able to raise resources to join university. And she would tell me, Bina, I don't want you to just, lose your life or, just end up joining the gangs in the community or end up getting married or pregnant because we can't afford, to raise your school fees. And she'd come and pick me, and we go to town and start knocking doors and tell people. And she'd be the first one to say, you know what, in fact, this is even my daughter. If you don't help her, honestly, she's either going to get married, and that is going to affect the quality of her life in the future. So we'd walk around with my papers. And I remember one time, we were at this office, they call Jogo House. I remember one time we were at Jogo House, and the current assistant director for polytechnics was Jeremiah Oruko. And she was in his office with Dr. Julio Seko, who's currently the senior magistrate for the Malindi court. And we walked in, and we had done that for 2 weeks. We had been walking in town for 2 weeks asking for help. And that day, we just got there. I just broke down because I didn't even have energy to explain my problem. That you talk about your challenges, your problem, but you have nothing else to say because you've been saying the same thing every day. And actually head sleepers. At times Dr. Julie looks at me and says, I am so proud of you. I am really, really proud of you. And it often almost brings tears to my eyes because the first time she met me, I was in sleepers in town asking for help. And she says, just looking at how far you've come from the day I met you in the office, and I was like, I wish I could help you, but she was about to just fly out to do her doctorate. And she said, I might not be around, but I'll mentor you, Bina. And I remember Mama Iva just telling Mr. Jeremiah Oruko, please help us. And he looked at my papers, and he didn't even question. He said, go look for a college. I'll support where I can. He didn't even care about my second name or who I was. He just said, you know what, just go look for a college and I'll support where I can. And that is how I got to join college, right? And Dr. Julie decided to also journey with me as a mentor, to tell me, you know what, you don't have to let your past define you. And I'm also very grateful for my mom's brother. He's called Rogers. He's my favorite uncle. He's also really supported my secondary education. He made sure at least I was able to finish the secondary education that guaranteed me this opportunity to actually join college. And he's been quite instrumental as well to ensure that as a family, I don't let my past hold me back and think that I can never make it because of the poverty I grew up in. So those very 3 people have been very, very instrumental. And after that, when I joined college, I was able to pass very well. I was actually at Graffin's College. I pursued hospitality management, and then I finished, and then now I was interested in joining university. And because I excelled very well, my uncle Rogers decided to support my education in USIU. So while I was at USIU, it was 2012. I joined USIU in 2012, and we're just warming up for another general election. And given my background, because no matter, as much as I was in USIU, I would still go back home to Kayole. And I remember every evening, especially the days I would have evening classes, I would dread getting home because of security. Your class ends at 9 p.m. By the time you get to town, and then now board a matatu to go back to Kayole, I'd be like, my God, is my safety guaranteed? But then at the same time, I would really, really feel so sad for the young women I grew up with who did not have the same opportunity I had to actually access, quality education. My best friend had since gotten 3 children, that we schooled with, so she was not even able to finish high school, sorry. And my other friends had also dropped out of high school as well. So I knew if I don't do something about if I don't do something about my community, it's so hard to enjoy success when people who surround you are, are living below the poverty line. They can't even afford food for themselves. So for me, I saw it as an opportunity to actually join the race and sit at the table where they make decisions that affect the quality of lives of citizens in especially Kayole, and participate in deciding what priority issues should we actually concern ourselves with currently. Because at times you find you can prioritize infrastructure, yes, but people don't even have access to better healthcare. You can prioritize another thing over something that people really, really, really need, like good housing, good education, food at the table for the citizen. And that is why I decided to throw myself in the race, which came at a very, very huge cost, because number one, I was being sponsored to be in school. I was being supported to actually access education. And so for someone who's a beneficiary of well-wishers and family members who are contributing to your education, and then you decide to venture into a very expensive affair like politics, it came out as someone who has their priorities mixed up, and I lost my scholarship after venturing into politics. And the only support that remained was support from my uncle, which was not adequate. Which was not adequate because he's supporting many other people. So I had to take a break from university, because then I had to choose. I didn't even have enough time to sit in my classes, from morning to evening. And then how politics is, yeah? At times uko mahali unaambiwa, wamama wako hapa wanakungojea. Mheshimiwa, wamama wamejaa wanakungojea, So it was even very, very hard to focus in class, because you're trying to make an impression, you're trying to rally people to support your vision, you're trying to sell your manifesto, you're trying to do door-to-door, and especially when you don't have resources, even money to move around. So that means you really, really have to be, you have to take up every opportunity to ensure that people understand what you're going to do, people understand your manifesto. You get to meet people who are very interested in joining your strategic team, because campaigning is just not about money. It's about also supporting you in your strategic team to ensure that citizens understand the difference you'll bring if they actually vote you in. Nothing quite prepares you for the world of politics. Not even the workshops I attended actually prepared me for the experience I would face, from how costly it can be, from facing electoral violence, dealing with self-identity issues, trying to fundraise, balancing domestic responsibilities, dealing with family members who are deterring you from pursuing your leadership ambitions. So it's quite a lot. And for me, by the time I was actually entering the political space, I was entering there, with my passion. I have grown up in this community. I really, really want to serve the people, but that's not exactly, so for me, just venturing into the political arena with my passion, with my ideas of how we can transform the community. But people want more than that. People haven't experienced good leadership before, and they're not sure you can actually deliver that. And for them, they're like, you know what, tumalizane tu, just give me what you're going to give me, and then that's it, From especially the senior electorate, the senior men wondering, what are you doing? Like, you're very, very young, you're not married, you've not even finished your education. What are you trying to tell us that you're actually going to transform this community? What if tomorrow you get married and you decide to go live in another county? And some of them even wondering, what agenda do you have for men? Because most of the time, when you're campaigning, you're probably talking about your agenda for women and young people, and you forget that the community is actually not made up of young people and women alone. It's made up of so many other people, the elderly, the men in the community, so people are very, very curious, but then very skeptical in terms of entrusting leadership to a young woman, and not even just a young man, a young woman. So people are just seeing it through that lens, because when you think about it, half the time as a woman, you're very, very concerned about how you show up in political spaces, because you're going to be judged harshly by the lipstick you wear, by the color of your hair, by the the length of your dress, the length of your skirt, So half the time you're like, oh my God, and that takes away time that you could have actually invested in thinking about the policies that you need to share with community members to understand where you're coming from, by the mere fact that you are actually campaigning to win this political seat. So, and even the resources, the money you take to actually go shop for outfits that you won't even wear after the campaign, just because you're trying to fit the bill, and just being criticized harshly compared to a man who doesn't even think twice that people are going to look at him and wonder why he wore that kind of suit that he wore, right? One time I just finished campaigning in a building and trying to sell my manifesto to this crowd of people. And it was in the evening, almost 7 p.m. And I remember when I was exiting the building, someone tried to pull down my skirt. And I shouted and I said, who is that? I mean, nani uyo? Like, why would someone do that, And I remember people around me trying to tell me, oh, Tulia, like, hush, guys are going to think that you have temper. I'm like, oh my God, temper issues? Are you kidding me? Someone just tried to strip me, and you think I have temper issues by trying to figure out what is happening? And I remember the next day I went to report the matter to the police station. And I was even more shocked by how the policemen handled that case. I remember even before they wrote down a statement, this police officer asking me, which zone was that? Is it a zone that supports Party X? And in my mind, I'm like, does it even matter? Whether it supports Party X or not, So I was very surprised to learn how gender-based violence is normalized in political spaces as the cost of you participating in politics. And I knew from that day I am on my own. I have to take my security seriously, and even getting resources to fund my own security, including even having to vet goons in the community who can protect you. And that is something also, as especially young women, you're never prepared for, because you don't even have adequate resources at the beginning to even run for political office. And when you think about the cultural and social norms in our community, for many women, you don't even inherit land that you can use as collateral to raise resources for your campaigns, as opposed to, let's say, a man or a young man who has land at their disposal that they can actually use as collateral to get access to resources that they can, pour into their campaign to even help them with simple logistics, moving from point A to B. Then mental health, half the time also we never really talk about mental health, especially for aspirants when you lose an election, because you'd really, really poured yourself into this election. So the trauma of losing, I remember the morning after they had announced the results and I had lost the election, and I knew that I have lost everything. First of all, I have lost my scholarship. Secondly, the family members who will tell me, oh, you're wasting your time, you know. And then third, it's the people who would actually spend time at your home every other day telling you that they're campaigning for you, that they believe in you, that they're actually supporting you. So I remember falling into depression after I lost the election, and I thought I have lost everything. I have lost my scholarship, my relationship with especially family members who do not approve of me running for political office, friends who know that you're very, very broke and they don't actually call you, they don't even check up on you. You don't even have money to go for therapy. Then you're even embarrassed to go to church because maybe your church members did not support your bid to, run for political office. And every other day, I used to lock myself in the house. I didn't even want to leave the house. I was 56 kgs when I was running for political office. By the time we were finishing the campaign, I was 47 kgs. And I did not even want to eat after that. So if you look at me, you'd actually just see bones around here because I fell further into 46, right? And I remember one morning, my mentor calling me because it was time for us to meet. And I didn't even have the energy to leave the house. And they told me, Bina, it's not the end of the world. And I said, it is. You don't understand where I'm coming from. It is the end of the world. And they said, no, it's not the end of the world. Is this the only way you can bring change to your community? And that question was so powerful to me because then it sparked a different light in my mind. And I told myself, you know what, Bina, you actually do not have to be a politician to bring about the change you desire to see in your community. And that is how Badili Africa initiative was born. And I started reflecting on the challenges that I faced even during the campaign trail. The fact that young women were not even interested in attending political rallies. I did not see young women in political party meetings. I would not even see young women blogging about a political issue, attending debates where you're debating about what politicians need to do that they're not doing in the communities, blogging about political issues, right? And then the fact that grassroots women organizing in chamas would often be used by politicians to organize rallies, to mobilize votes, and then afterwards they are dumped and they're not seen as key stakeholders when it comes to politicians partnering with them. And so at Badili, we are also very, very keen in terms of young women engagement in leadership spaces, and we're beginning that at the university level. If you look at most of our household names in the political scene currently, they began their leadership journey from campus. And sadly, young women in campus politics is very, very low currently. We talk about women engagement in national parliament in Kenya standing at 23%, but sadly, in campus politics, young women engagement in university politics stands at 10%. So we have a lot of work to do because if you cannot see yourself as a leader in campus, then it's very hard for you to see yourself as a leader beyond campus in the political space. And that is why we are very, very keen in young women understanding early how does politics affect them and what can they do about it. And for me, when I read statistics like the most disenfranchised lot and disengaged lot in political affairs is actually young women, I feel so sad because when you think about teen pregnancies, when you think about female genital mutilation, when you think about sexual and gender-based violence, when you think about unemployment, when you think about who's actually facing human trafficking, young women bear the brunt of this. And to think that they're not the ones engaging in political spaces, I think it's a huge disadvantage. And there's more that we need to do because young women and there's more that we need to do because if the youth in this country are 70%, young women make the bulk of that number. So that is why we're very, very keen on young women engagement. And lastly, on Chama women as accountability champions in their community beyond the election. Well, after you've mobilized for this particular politician, after you've mobilized for your political party, beyond the election is where our work begins as citizens actually. Most of us always think that, after I have voted, then that's it. See, I've already if I didn't vote, but especially if you voted, you're like, I've done my part, let me wait for another 5 years for the next leader for me to vote for. But our work actually begins right after election. That is when actually you need to start thinking, how can I influence our local development plans, our local development policies? How do I hold my leaders accountable to ensure that they are able to meet and fulfill their promises. They're able to raise the quality of life that I live because you've given them a job, they're paid by your taxes. So you have a very huge responsibility, as opposed to thinking the NGO is the role of the activist to actually push for the change that we need. No, it's actually up to all of us to push for that change that we desire to see in our community. So I want to welcome, different people to join our community engagements, to join our campaigns. You can find us on all the social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Badili Africa. We are on Twitter, Badili Africa. It's Badili_A. We're on Instagram, Badili_A. And our emails, info@badiliafrica.org. And yeah, we are happy to partner to push for the change that we desire to see.